Sup? Finally getting around to that practice mode tutorial video that I promised at the end of the Clemson season, so gonna go against Ohio State, best defense on the game in my opinion. Gonna switch over the Indiana defense in case we decide to do some defensive stuff later. Yeah, for some reason Indiana's one of those where the stock defense they have online is different than the stock defense they have offline. First things first, let's get into settings. I don't think you necessarily have to do exactly what I do here, but this is my preference. Passing type, placement and accuracy, passing slowdown off, pass lead increase small, and reticle speed 7. I know some people like some of the other passing types, and each one does have its strengths and weaknesses, I guess. Like there's certain throws you can make with a different passing type that you couldn't make with this, but as far as consistency goes, I think this is the way to go. And then in-game, I only changed 2, but I think they are both extremely important. Always play on conservative, in my opinion. Always play on conservative. The fact that you can still do skill moves, your jukes, your spins, your hurdles, that sort of thing, and you get a boost when you don't use them in terms of not fumbling, that's sort of what conservative does. It doesn't keep you from doing any of those things. It's just when you don't do those things, you're less likely to fumble from a hit, a strip sack, whatever. So always play on conservative, and then with protection, either base or empty, one of the two. Depending on who you ask, some people prefer base. I prefer base. Some people say empty works better and picks up stunts a little better if you're in a pass-happy offense, but be on one of the two. Try both. Alternate, whatever you feel right with, but make sure you're on base or empty. Don't deal with those line shifts and not knowing what plays have them and what plays don't, and your offensive lineman accidentally letting someone through because you didn't know they were sliding right, sliding left. Base or empty, conservative, you're good to go. And the first real gameplay rule of this, we're going to call it know your depth chart, know your playbook, know how you can kind of use the two together for an added advantage. This is the play I start every single game off with, and I want to show you this in tight end right here. Number 48. I start every single game with this exact play when I use Indiana. Not an inch of separation. Granted, Arvell Reese is awesome, but 0 separation there. We're going to run that play again. This is exactly the way I set it up. Every play to start, or the first play of every game to start every single game. He's going to be open again, but look, he's a big lumbering buffoon. 5-6 yards, nothing more. Now we're in the depth chart, and you notice a running back, normally Roman Hemby's the starter. We put Kalon Black as the starter. Roman Hemby, why would you do that? Look at all his ratings. He's better at pretty much everything. We put Roman Hemby as the backup so that we can put Roman Hemby as the starter at fullback. And you notice 93 speed, silver shifty, good agility, good acceleration, 82 catch. That's a heck of a weapon. Why would you put him as the number 2 running back and the fullback? But as you'll see here, it doesn't prevent us in any way from using him at running back. Any of these formations, just start cycling through the packages, right stick. He'll qualify as the fullback, he'll qualify as backup halfback, he'll qualify as third down back. Any formation we want to use him as a halfback, we can still use him as a halfback. So it doesn't prevent that in any way, but now we go back to our starter play, wing, halfback, weak, close. And if we cycle through these packages, look right there, fullback, wing, Roman Hemby, number 1, the guy with the star around him. Now he's playing that in tight end position. That's 93 speed, silver shifty, high agility, good catch rating. Way better than your standard backup tight end. So we set this play up the same way. Cooper on the deep crosser, Hemby on the drag. And look at that separation. And that's with 93 speed, Styles Jr. guarding him. 23-yard gain on just a simple little drag because we got 93 speed and silver shifty and better agility. There's another good one, 15-yarder, the other Styles brother on him that time. Run it one more time, see if Hemby can break loose. No, going to be Cooper wide open this time. And that's actually the route you look for when you run this play. You want that big 30, 35-yarder. But it's great having Hemby underneath if you need it. Same concept here out of this wing slot over formation in this PA flood play. Really strange formation. And when you look at this play, you're like, who in the world would run this? For starters, I do want to be over on the left hash. The middle will work, but you want to be on the left hash here. Work the whole side of the field. But you see X there, Riley Nowakowski, tight end. You'd think you'd be able to put him on a hot route, right? Like he shows up in the select receiver icon. Can't do anything with him. He's required to block the X guy, the inside tight end. So you look at this, you're like, both receivers on the same side of the field? That Elijah Surratt route, it was actually a pretty awesome route. You'd think you'd be able to custom stem that up or down. Nope, locked in right there. So both receivers on the same side of the field, can't even custom stem the Surratt route. One tight end is required to block, so you have to have 6 blockers. The other guy's a backup tight end. This play stinks. Why would anyone run this play? You guessed it. Cycle through the packages a couple times, find fullback wing there, and now Hemby's at that outside tight end spot. So we'll send Cooper on a runoff route, Hemby on an out, Black on an angle. Oh, and look at that separation. Granted, that was a defensive end, but he totally torched him. 20-yarder. Try that again. DB even stayed down, and we're still going to gain 10, 11, 12 yards. Yeah, I mean, it's such a strange formation. You'd look at this and be like, who in the hell would run this? Cooked again. And then, yeah, once you're in open space, you want that. You want 93 speed. You want great agility. You want shifty, not some, 260 pounds, 74 speed backup tight end. Oh, and there's Surratt wide open. Really opened up this play a lot. Ended up being one of my favorite plays in this playbook. And just like last time, this is not really necessarily highlighting this as like a must-have money play. Ooh, great one there, though. It's more of just this concept, this idea, whatever team you're using, because this formation is very unique, very rare, not in very many playbooks at all. But whatever team you're using, get in there into the playbook, play around with the packages, find a few formations where you can put sometimes a wide receiver at tight end, sometimes a fullback at tight end, which really means a running back if you play it right. You can really open up some cool plays. Like this one here, doubles Y off weak. I could get Hemby at tight end if I want, or I can get a wide receiver at tight end if I want. And I know for a fact South Carolina has this formation. So while I don't actually run this one at all, really, with Indiana, just because they have so many other things I like, I've never had to go far enough down the list to run this. I know South Carolina has this. So imagine, Nick Harbor there playing tight end and the mismatches you could create. But yeah, it really just the idea of this, the concept of this, play around with your playbook, play around with your depth chart, find some mismatches. You can take some, really bad plays to actually usable plays to good plays to great plays. There's Cooper winning when that would have otherwise been a tight end. Oh, woo. So yeah, man, there's only one Kenyon Sadiq out there, but when you can play around with packages and kind of manipulate your depth chart, you can really create some mismatches. Now we're going to get into the singular rule that will make you a Heisman level player overnight, or at least once you grasp this rule and understand this rule. It's a basic philosophy for your passing game. It will work on this game. It will work on next year's game in 6 weeks. It will work on Madden if you go play Madden. It will work on a Madden from 8 years ago if you want to pop that in your system and play that. This singular passing philosophy will take your passing game to a whole new level. And it's honestly quite simple, and we're going to show you how to do it out of multiple formations, pretty much any pass play, any formation. It's just a basic concept. You want to isolate your best receiver, which doesn't literally mean he has to be by himself, but you want him ending up, without anyone else clouding his space. And in this case, that's Elijah Surratt on the left. Isolate him on a comeback route, and then basically flood the other side of the field. And if your opponent does not help out the isolation route, you're going to throw that all day long. Let's go into a replay. All we're doing here is reading the 2 other people on Surratt's side of the field, this slot corner and this safety, and making sure neither one... Oh, I guess that was the wrong play. Just one safety. Just making sure he doesn't go play underneath help. At the snap, we see he's rushing. We know there's no underneath help. As long as your best receiver is the one isolated, you're catching that comeback all day long. Run that one more time. Looks like they're in man coverage again. So I don't think there's going to be underneath help. And so I think we're just going to throw to Surratt. Yeah, Hemby's wide open, but Surratt should win. Yeah, and that's Ohio State. That's a great cornerback opposite him. And granted, Surratt is awesome. Surratt has phenomenal ratings, good abilities. But as long as you're not like MTSU against Alabama, your best wide receiver is going to win on the comeback route 99% of the time. It's just what the comeback route does. The comeback route wins. The only way you stop the comeback is with underneath coverage. So that's your first read. Your eyes always go there. If you don't see help playing underneath, you throw to your isolated best wide receiver on the comeback route until your opponent's willing to stop. And then on the right-hand side, we have really just like a flood concept. A runoff, a check down, and a guy that lands right in the middle at about 25, 30 yards downfield. And that's a 25-yard, 26-yard gain right there. Let's go to the replay. So here our eyes are on this. We know the cornerback, what his job is. At the snap, we're reading that safety, and we saw they went underneath. Kind of bracketed them, so they have a guy underneath and a guy over the top. That takes away our comeback route, but it also gives us information. We know he's in a, cover 3 defense, so we know we're going to have cover 3 on the other side, and we know that like right here. The ball gets snapped. We already know where our eyes are to start. Safety's darting over, and he's not, running deep to, it's not a quarter, it's like a 2-man. He's running angled and down. He's running to get underneath it. Our eyes go right away, and then we're just watching our right-hand side unfold. Check down, that pulls defenders down, and you throw it if it's there. If they back up too far, if they're trying to use or whatever, you take it if it's there, and you have a runoff that runs everybody deep. And then like most flood concepts, the route you actually want is that middle route. That's 22 yards from where we snap the ball, gets tackled, gains 25, 26 yards. Run that again. Runoff, pull down, outside is covered on the left, and that guy's just sitting right in the middle, almost a 30-yard gain. Now we're going to run it against cover 3 match really quickly. The left should be taken away off the snap. Yeah, we see Downs going over to play underneath. Becker didn't hang on there. It did get knocked out. Let's go to the replay. I'm going to show you a telltale sign for match always. You start left. We already know. But once you start left and look right, it's this inside slot defender. If he turns his hips and runs with your inside guy with your runoff route, that's match coverage. If he keeps his hips flat and just kind of, bumps him and then passes him off, lets him run by him, that means he's focused and staying in his regular zone. So turns his hips and runs with him, that's match. Just kind of bumps him and lets him passes him off. That's just your standard like cover 3 zone. So again, our left safety is going to help. Match coverage again. And see, he knocked the first one out, but I'm never afraid to throw that against match coverage ever. The cornerback will never jump that and pick it off in match. So you want your timing to be right. The better your timing is, the less likely you'll have a knockout. But you never have to be afraid about that being picked off from a cornerback just because he's in match coverage. They had some good pressure there. And ideally, this works best against cover 3 specifically because then there's no one close to him. He gets run all the way off. But never afraid to throw that against match. You got to be ready to make a possession catch. And here's what that inside slot corner would look like. What I was just saying. See how he doesn't turn his hips and run with him. He just kind of bumps him and passes him off. That's how you know it's just your standard cover 3 zone, not a match zone. So our eyes would have been left right there. We would have already made up our mind. We know we're not going left. It's got help. We would come right. We would see that the slot corner passed him off, and we know we're just sitting in a soft cover 3. We hold for as long as we can, let the spacing develop. We also had him be wide open if we wanted to be a check down Charlie. But I like to use check downs in emergencies, not as my entire scheme. Your base play, your base route should always be way further downfield, and you only come back down to the check downs because you have to. So let's run it one more time. Oh yeah, that, and you can do different things. As long as you have a pull down, doesn't matter which one it is. I can make the running back the pull down and use Cooper as, the check down in the middle. Put him on a drag, put him on a return. Works the same way. We just need somebody to pull the defender down, somebody to run the other defender off, and we hit the guy right in the middle, Charlie Becker, every time. We're custom stimming this up about 25 yards downfield, and then once it comes back, it'll be at about 21, 22 yards. I kind of view this as just this game's version of like a back shoulder throw. It's like a back shoulder fade. Oh, yeah, just money, money, money. And then what is absolutely best about this, I love the fade stop play when you find it in a playbook, and that fade stop route is a hair better than just a regular curl. I think that little hitch at the beginning puts it just that like yard or so closer to the sideline, but don't need that play at all. You just need like a trips formation. Like this is me making Becker just a stock curl. You can hot route a curl with any team, any play, any player on this game. That is just a stock curl, custom stem to about 25 yards, 24 yards, a streak to run everything off. Again, a stock hot route, so you can do that with anybody on the game. A stock, zig out route. You can do that with any team. That is a hot route that every team has access to. And then just a running back angle route. So you do not need the specific fade stop play. You saw us run it against soft cover 3 zone. Now we just ran it against cover 3 match. This is completely stripping it of that, real stop route and just making it a curl. So there is no excuse, no matter what team you use. If you have a trips formation, you can run this. Furthest outside guy, curled and then custom stemmed about 24, 25 yards so that when he comes back, he's sitting at, 21, 22, 23. Inside slot guy, he's the runoff. Furthest inside slot guy, he's our check down. Come back on the left on the isolation side, make your reads. Very, very, very tough concept for 95% of players to stop. I tear people up with this on the Heisman tier. Anybody that's watched my videos knows. So imagine what you're doing to the kids on the younger tiers, man. Get into practice mode. Try this. Easy to pull off on the trips. Any trips formation. And it's just pure gold. Get off me. And now you're going to see the beauty of how like universal this basic concept is. This, isolate your best guy on a comeback and then flood the opposite side. So now we're going to a more 2x2 spread formation and sort of double dipping on that first rule from earlier. Watch if we cycle through the packages, we can get a wide receiver in the tight end spot. So a little bit more speed out there, wide receiver slot package. E.J. Williams, number 7, replacing Riley Nowakowski at tight end. But now watch how this is a totally separate formation, not a trips at all. And we even use a different route, but the philosophy is the exact same. Back it up a little bit. This is a great starter play. I bust this out as my first play on usually the second or third, fourth drive of the game, that sort of thing. But I'll come to this a lot. And in this case, our pull down is on the far left. Our runoff is in the slot left. Right-hand side's completely left alone. He's going to win every time. And this is the beauty of this right here. We're creating the exact same concept out of a totally different formation and a totally different primary route. We're putting our best receiver on a comeback. That's Surratt on the right this time. And now we're flooding the left, but instead of a stop route, we're flooding the left with a deep crosser. Now they continue to stay in man, so we just keep throwing it to Surratt. But now we're going to show you what it looks like if they were in a softer zone. But again, this time Surratt's not even actually isolated on an island. He's got a receiver right beside him. This is a 2x2 formation, unlike the trips from last time. But by the end of the play, Surratt still ends up isolated, and our flood still ends up on the opposite side from the isolation route. Let's show that real quick. So at the snap, our eyes would have been out there. We would have seen, there's a defender playing underneath Surratt, so our eyes come back to the left. We have Becker pulling down, and granted, Becker was wide open if we wanted the check down. We have Omar Cooper running off, And like with all flood concepts, the route you actually want is the one in the middle. That's why they call it a flood. 3 different layers, one side of the field. Find the one that's open, and ideally, hopefully, it's the middle guy. You know, I guess ideally you'd love the runoff route to just be a wide open bomb, like 80-yard touchdown, but that's not super realistic. You're trying to strain the underneath defenders on either that check down for a 8, 9, 10, 12-yard gain, or the deeper route, whether it's a crosser, whether it's a stop route, a curl, what have you, custom stemmed up, or the route that we're going to show you next after this one. You want to flood the side, stretch the defenders, and then just make the appropriate read. Here we are running it from left to right. Boom, wide open. And maybe you notice how on that fade stop and this route, we end up in the exact same spot on the field pretty much. We want 20 to 30 yards downfield, and we want ideally to be close to the sideline. And that's not by accident. That's away from the user defender. 99.9% of users are hanging out in the middle of the field, and they should. I hang out in the middle of the field as a user. I do think I'm a little bit better with my defensive zone drops and scheming up, answers, but I hang out in the middle of the field. 99% of real players are going to hang out with their user in the middle of the field. So if you can pick up your big chunks at the edges, 20, 25, 30, 35 yards downfield and close to the sideline, you are never, ever, ever going to have to deal with a user defender, ever. And that's why every single one of these, you're going to start to notice like, oh, okay, different patterns, different ideas, but they all end up in the same spot and they all seem to work. And then this will just be a kind of a 5-wide version of the same. Isolate the comeback, flood the opposite side. Just kind of showing you can do it out of really any formation on this game. Probably should have put Surratt on the far right, but I do like him on that shake route. As really, that'd probably be like our 5th read here, though. But comeback's isolated. Pull down is Cooper, and he's wide open here. So there, we took a drag. Gained almost 20 yards. If they were in man or like a match with no underneath help, we'd be looking for the comeback with Williams on the far right. If they're in a softer zone, we're looking for, right there. Becker barely got it off, but 35, 40-yard gain on the deep crosser, and guess what? Close to the sideline. And then this looks like man. Hopefully it is, just to, where we go on man. If we read man right away and we don't read underneath help, we're throwing the comeback. Hopefully he can hang on since it's not Surratt. Yeah, what a play. And now we're on to the third and final sort of money route that still runs the exact same philosophy, and that's a wheel route. We're isolating far left. All of our flood is coming to the right. We're waiting for that wheel to clear. Notice that it's the exact spot of the field that it is, 30, 35 yards downfield, close to the sideline. Who would have guessed it? At the snap, our eyes go left. We see that there's going to be a flat defender underneath, so that takes away our comeback. We would have known that, half a second after the snap, almost instantly. So our eyes come back, middle and to the right. And here's what I think the problem is with like 90% of you guys out there. 90% of you are throwing to either Cooper or Himby right there. Your eyes are like, ooh, check down, 5 yards. Hold the ball, especially when you have a clean pocket, for 1 second longer. Make sure you have something cooked up and take the 35-yard gain that's wide open. You gotta stop playing scared, That just drives me crazy with some of you guys. Like Heisman tier players that I play, and it's like your whole scheme is check downs. Get rid of it. Boom. You gotta stop playing scared. You gotta stop doing 5, 6, 7-yard check downs as your scheme. Taking 12, 13 plays to score. Just too much can go wrong there. I don't care if you got 2 guys out there, as long as you don't have a guy underneath. And then why the wheel is great. Obviously we found a play that had a wheel, but look, we can just put our running back on a wheel. He ends up in the exact same spot. Obviously I wouldn't actually run a play with 2 wheels, but that was just to show you how they both end up in the same spot. So if you have a play that has a good wheel route in its stock, great, you can do it with your wide receiver. If not, you can put your running back on a wheel with a hot route anytime you want. Anytime. And that's what's great. Everything I've shown you here, from a comeback route to a curl route that you just custom stem up about 24, 25 yards, to a deep crosser, to a wheel route with your running back, every single route I've shown you is just a stock hot route. You can do this with any team and any playbook on this game. And then here's just one more example of the wheel. Totally different tight open formation. I just really love this glitchy Surratt route, especially custom stemmed up about 20 yards on the left there. This will be like the one play where I don't run a comeback. See, we still have the wheel if it's a soft zone. We had a runoff. We had Becker on a underneath like check down, and then we had the wheel route. And then on the left this time, instead of, isolating him for a comeback, we kind of run like a levels concept. A little curl that holds people at 8-9 yards, and then Surratt comes behind into that little soft spot with that glitchy route. And that same route would have beaten man, would have beaten match. And that's why I sort of use it the exact same way we use, the comebacks. But yeah, I just isolate and then flood. See how he's holding him down. If the user had run back there to guard Surratt, then the curl would have been wide open. Cooper was wide open on the wheel. Love it. And then now we're just going to run it to the left. A couple of plays. Just kind of show you, man, whatever side of the field you're on, you can make this work. As long as we have time. Yeah, wheel route, 30-yard gain. They dropped back kind of far. I will show you. You can take the check down if you need to. I just don't think check down should be like your primary offense, but yeah, we'll take 9-10 yards on a check down. That's always awesome. Let's see if we can hit Becker again. Just stop running a check down scheme, man. Isolate, flood, pick up big chunks. Now we're down in the red zone, and unfortunately I don't have any just magic red zone tips. There's some great individual plays. This one right here, quick fork zig out of the gun wing trips weak, far left square button. Maybe my favorite play on the game, if not definitely top 2 or 3. This thing inside the 15-yard line, almost a guaranteed touchdown. These and we do use Himby at tight end on this one, using the fullback wing, but that little gap opens up right there, and that outside receiver, Omar Cooper in this case, huge hole every time. If they happen to be in a man or a match, Surratt will win way to the outside on this outside zig route. Absolutely love this play, even super close up, 1-2 yard line, same exact thing. Cooper finds that gap. If it's man, yeah, still held on. Love this play. If you do have a team that has a version of this, because it is in a couple of different formations, like some Y trips, some wing trips, but it's only in 30 or 40 playbooks on the game. So I don't want to just hype up a specific play because that doesn't really help anybody that uses anyone else. Here's another one though where we, this is supposed to be 2 tight ends in this deuce formation and this PA slide play on the far right, but we're going to use the packages again. Get Omar Cooper at that second tight end spot, and now we have a 93 speed player with Shifty doing this motion sprint flat instead of a backup 78 80 speed tight end. And so that would maybe be my one tip for the red zone. Just find your stuff like that and save your stuff like that. Save your best RPOs, save your best screens, save your best runs, save those for the red zone. You should be airing it out. You should be picking up 20, 25, 30-yard chunks between the 20s, not wasting your best red zone plays because you have a 3rd and 4 at the 42-yard line, So save your best stuff. Find your best mismatches in your playbook. Things like this. Get Cooper out there in the flat. That's really my best tip for the red zone. And we'll show you one more where we kind of do that. This under center strong wing play. We'll go to Gadget at halfback. That'll put Cooper in halfback. And because we already have Himby locked in as our fullback, remember from earlier, we put him at fullback on the depth chart. That's going to create a backfield of Cooper at halfback, Himby at fullback. We're going to put Himby on a little corner route from the backfield. And then we're just going to read a high-low. I love this like natural play action sprint. Mendoza already starts like sprinting out. Cooper doesn't even like stop to take a fake handoff. He just sprints to the flat. If they come down, we're throwing to Himby. If they leave Cooper open, we're dumping it off. Again, that's a super specific play that you're not going to really find in very many formations, but it's more just the idea of finding what your playbook has, utilizing the depth chart, and save it for the red zone. Now for just a fun part of the video for the next like 5 or 10 minutes, these are going to be some specific beaters. This is a cover 3 match beater. It's going to end up being, and you'll notice this, remember this play from earlier, this is what we were trying to run our deep crosser and our comeback route on, but this specific route, this stock slot fade, is a cover 3 match beater. Let's run it one more time and then we'll show you in the replay why it works the way it does. Oh, love it. So this works specifically because of the return route that we hot route on the far left, Charlie Becker. Because the return has him breaking out first, off the snap, he goes to the sideline. That furthest cornerback has to hold. His responsibility is to get the furthest outside vertical threat, but he's thinking, oh, this guy's staying here, so I have to stay here. If I just turn and run upfield, this guy's going to be sitting over here on the sideline wide open with no one near him. So I have to hang here and see what he does. Once Becker plants his foot and starts going towards the middle, the cornerback passes him off, says, oh, crap, that's not my guy anymore. I need to get vertical. But by then, your inside slot guy, as long as it's your fastest guy, should have won that, should have cooked the safety, and that beats cover 3 match. But the funny part, watch when we put Becker on an in route. 95% the same as a return route, but it creates a totally different play. When he's on an in instead of a return, the cornerback doesn't worry about him, passes him off, runs deep. That play would never work. So you can't run it blindly. You got to know what you're looking for, but awesome cover 3 match beater. And that's why this play's so like deep. It's still, if you guess wrong, if you think you have the beater and you guess wrong, good chance you have your isolated comeback. You'd still have your deep crosser from that slot guy on the right. You could be looking for a cover 3 match bomb, turn out to be wrong, and still have a ton of things open. And if you happen to be right, here's an 80-yard gain for you. The one bummer, slot fades are a hot route that you can make. It doesn't work with the hot route slot fade, the one you see there on the screen. It has to be like a stock slot fade just built into a pre-existing play, but then you pair it with that return route, cover 3 match bomb. And as if this spread Y slot, cross slot fade play couldn't get any sillier. You saw us run it earlier. We love the deep crosser. We love the comeback route on the right. You saw that it's a cover 3 match bomb if you get the right look there. Now watch what it does to cover 4 quarters. It's an even better cover 4 quarters bomb. And this one you can create out of pretty much any sort of spread formation. This you could make with the standard hot routed slot fade. It's just the slot fade wouldn't actually work against a cover 3 match. But if you set up all 5 routes like you just saw here, return route on the left, slot fade on the inside left, deep crosser inside right, comeback on the far right, and then your running back running a streak out of the backfield, against cover 4 quarters, you'll get this safety confusion every single time, and you'll have a bomb to your running back. For whatever reason, this safety up here feels like he has to sprint out and help guard Surratt. I guess he thinks Surratt's running vertical, when really he should have him beat. And then by the time that inside, that lower safety realizes that was his guy, gone. And now we'll do one more cover 4 quarters bomb. This one you can do out of pretty much any trips formation. Ideally, you want to find like a verticals play out of a trips. If not, you're going to have to make one extra hot route, sort of sending your inside guy on like a deep crosser. But if you can find a verticals and all go, something like that, that's what you want. So let's get in there and I'll show you. And like I said, this works very similarly to how the cover 3 match beater worked in the previous play. There's what the play looks like stock. We're going to leave Cooper, the furthest inside guy in the trips, on his route. We're going to put Becker on a straight streak. We're going to put Williams on a return route. The other two will just set up as if we didn't know the play, so like a real game. And look, Becker torches that, and he's not even fast. He's like 86, 87 speed. It has nothing to do with speed. It just punks out, like glitches out, confuses the match coverage. And we'll show you why that works. But like I said, it works very similar to the cover 3 match beater. Because Williams on that return route breaks to the outside first, this cornerback who's supposed to have deep responsibility, like furthest outside guy that goes deep, that's your guy. But because the guy that he's lined up over top of broke to the sideline and sat for a second, he has to sit with him. Becker runs right by. The inside safeties think the cornerback has deep responsibility on the furthest deep outside guy, and that's how they get confused, and he splits the gap. I'll run it a couple more times just to show you, but also to warn you. If there's any zone drop set at all, it overrides the match coverage. So you can't just blindly see that your opponent, just ran cover 4 quarters, think he's going to run it again, and then just press play and bomb it. You have to make sure that he's in true, like, cover 4 quarters match. Make sure that cornerback sticks down, and then boom, gone every time. Love it. And then this is one that really any video game football player probably knows already, but this is just your classic cover 3 sky, no match principles, just a basic cover 3 zone deep bomb. And this one has been on every EA Sports football game for 20 years, 15 years at least. You put a comeback route on the side that's isolated, streak up the middle, and then a deep post. The other 2 routes should just be eye candy distractions down low. And I mean, and that's Charlie Becker. He's only 86 speed. I think ideally you probably want a faster guy there, but this one is as old as time as it relates to video games. Everyone should know this one. Your comeback route goes out, comes back, which distracts the cornerback there. He's like, oh, I got to stay on the guy. I got to come down. So that's how you get him. The streak runs off the deep safety. Boom. And the reason this has been around for 15, 20 years is because it really is just like real football. Like a lot of real football teams run this. As long as you have enough time to block it up, run off the deep guy, pull down the guy on the outside, and have a guy break in behind all that green space behind, like Charlie Becker does there. Don't want to spend time on this, but that is a cover 3 zone beater if you somehow did not know that one. It's going to work forever, has worked forever, going to keep working forever. You just need time to block it up and call it in the right spot. Now we're going to look at some beaters for mid-blitz. Mid-blitz, everyone's least favorite defense to have to face. And yeah, I mean, when it's run right, it can be tough, but I also think it's one of those things, once you have a couple of beaters, it can just be like big play city. I don't want to spend too much time on these, just again, like with some of these other plays, this is very specific to the Indiana playbook, so, if you're using pretty much any other team, you're not going to get the benefits of this, but maybe just the philosophies, the strategies behind it. This play that we were showing you earlier, it's like this play was put in here specifically to beat mid-blitz. You get the guaranteed extra blocker because that inside tight end is required to block, so you have 6 blockers right off the bat, and then this outbreaking route just absolutely torches man coverage of any kind. And then with that little trick we showed you earlier, getting a much faster player at that outside tight end spot, where Roman Hemby is. Well, I mean, this is a 3-yard drag, but because he's 93 speed and turns it up. So that's, more of the stuff that would sort of translate to whatever playbook you're using. Block it up, whether you're keeping a halfback in the block, whether you have a formation like this that keeps a tight end as the 6th blocker. Block it up, look for sharp outbreaking routes, and not just like your standard out route. You want sort of the stock, already inside the playbook, kind of, you just know them when you see them, those sort of funky outbreaking routes, drags, comeback routes, as long as you have time to block it up. That's how you're going to beat mid-blitz. And then something that I think you will find in most playbooks is this right here, and that's skinny posts. Skinny posts absolutely torch man coverage. And so this is one of my go-to plays when I know I'm playing just a guy that's going to sit in mid-blitz. I don't even use an extra blocker to block it up. I just bring the running back to the opposite side. That way their user hopefully is fixated on that side. Clear out the middle, make sure no routes are getting in the way, and then just watch that skinny post absolutely torch it. And again, I know Elijah Surratt has phenomenal route running ratings. He has good abilities. But as long as you're putting your best wide receiver, the guy with the highest route running, that sort of thing, in the skinny post, he's going to cook the corner 95% of the time. I've thrown this play, turned it up, and taken it for 80, 90-yard touchdowns so many times just because there's nobody else to help. Middle's totally cleared out. They're sending everything with heat. Freebie every time. Skinny post, comebacks, sharp out-breaking routes, drags, that sort of thing. Look for those mismatches. If you can get a tight end, get a running back or a wide receiver into a tight end spot, then there's a pretty good chance the person manned up on them is a linebacker or a safety that's further away. That's really the best way to beat mid-blitz. Just common man-beating routes. Once you know what you're looking for, it's a lot less scary. Lastly, if there was a great running play for beating mid-blitz, the halfback direct is it. Most people, I plugged in a second controller here, most people are going to bring this guy down and sort of triple mug this gap because they think, oh, I can still shoot out and use her and cover the running back if I need to. Halfback direct absolutely torches mid-blitz if the person brings down this defender and triple mugs this gap. Somehow every single time the tackle and the guard get those two in guys, every single time, and then it's just a race to the outside. And a lot of different formations have variations of halfback direct, so be looking for that deep in your playbook. You'll find that with a lot of teams, most teams. If this person comes anywhere down here to the line of scrimmage and tries to sort of triple mug this, you're shooting out there real quick. Of course, the one counter is that if they don't do that, it's not nearly as good of a play. You're still going to get out there with a one-on-one. You could make the guy miss, juke, spin, stick skills, whatever. But if they don't come down and triple mug it, then you're just looking at a 3 or 4 yard gain. So we'll come onto the linebacker here so the safety isn't down here triple mugged. Like I said, still one-on-one, still picked up 3, 4, 5 yards, but nothing big. You really need that triple mug to make this work. But that is a great mid-blitz beater. Alright, so if you stuck around, made it to this point in the video, over 40 minutes in, there's nothing left for me to teach you, nothing new. But what I am going to do now is I'm going to run this just like it's a real game. Set up at the 25-yard line, run a play, move the ball up to the new spot, and then just run 6, 7, 8, 9 drives. Kind of put everything in order. I'll show you how I would run the scheme in a real game environment. I know it's the computer. I know they don't always call the most practical defensive plays and no user and whatnot, but just kind of talk through it, ramble, teach some other things. I told you I start every single game with this play. Set it up with our deep crosser, return route, drag route. Looks like obvious man, so we're looking drag. And boom, that would have been a 14, 15-yard play to start the game. And because a lot of the rest of the video had, cuts and edits and stuff, I don't want anybody out there thinking, how do I know these plays even work? You could have just shown me one play that worked and then edited out the 10 times that you failed and threw a pick. So this isn't going to have really any cuts or edits. And the whole reason we started in a new practice, at the end we'll have fresh stats. There's Hemby again. So first 2 plays of the game, we kind of take advantage of that, getting Roman Hemby at tight end, getting some mismatches, 2 big chunks to start the game. And I don't know, and kind of during this exercise, I'll just kind of be dropping little hints and verbal things. I don't know how many of you guys know, because I still see a lot of people absolutely terrified of playing on the road, because of crowd noise, stadium pulse, that sort of thing. And I hope most of you know that there are rules to the stadium pulse. And once you know them, I think it becomes a lot easier. Like any 20-yard gain, any 20-yard gain, 20, 25, 45, 60, whatever, any gain that is over 20 yards, the next play is guaranteed to have a totally quiet stadium. Completely 100% quiet. And that's one of the things that always, there's our first touchdown. See, 4-play drive. Himby, then Becker on fade stops, and then a little screen down at, 15-yard line. 4-play touchdown drive. But one of the most infuriating things that I see, I guess I like it as the opponent, but I'll be the home team. My opponent's clearly dealing with crowd noise. They get a 22-yard gain, which I don't give up a lot of them, but it does happen. They get a 22-yard gain. They no huddle, sprint to the line of scrimmage, and then run halfback dive for like 2 yards. And then on second down, the crowd noise is right back. Like, if you ever get a 20-yard gain, you have to take advantage of that next play. Because on the road, that's the one play where I can make all the hot routes, all the adjustments, all the things I need to do to set up a big play. There's our man coverage with no safety help underneath. Just take our isolated comeback route. Second down so far, perfect completion percentage. So that's one thing. Like, stadium pulse is tough, and sometimes it can be hard getting that first, 20-yard play. But anytime you have a 20-yard play, a 20-yard gain, your next play is a freebie in terms of stadium pulse. Let's see if we're going to set up our first wheel route of the exercise from that tight open formation. See how long we can keep this perfect completion percentage going. Probably going to be Surratt over the middle. Yeah, good win. Move that up to the 32, 33-yard line, right hash. So that's another reason why, granted, I've kind of always played like this, but especially this year's game. That's why I love big chunks, man. You got to get big chunks, especially on the road, because big chunks are what then allow your next play to be, a total freebie in terms of no stadium pulse, no crowd noise. Some other ones, like if you get a couple of first downs in a row, like if you ever get first downs on back-to-back plays, I don't think it completely takes it to zero, but it takes it to such a small amount. So like you pick up a first down on second or third down, and then the very next play of the next, sequence of downs, you get a first down on that play too, crowd noise is going to be super quiet. So that's when you then, need to take advantage of that and scheme up your big plays, even on the road. Even on the road, you get breaks in the crowd noise if you know what you're looking for, if you know what triggers them. And it blows my mind when people don't take advantage of that, and it's just, crowd noise sucks. Don't get me wrong, what I prefer, there's another touchdown. Well, 2 drives, a total of like 8 or 9 plays, perfect completion percentage, looking good so far. Well, would I prefer a game without stadium pulse, crowd noise? Probably. I think it sucks to implement that into like a competitive mode. Just especially early in the year, my mind was pretty blown. Like, wait a minute, I'm playing a goon right now, and he gets, because he's LSU and he's at home, he gets total access to his playbook, and I don't. I'm probably going to lose to this guy, and I think he's, half the player that I am. This is really disappointing. But as the year went on, you start to notice, the tricks and the patterns and the coding to it all. And yeah, not actually that scary. Take advantage of those 20-yard gains when you get them. Utilize the next play. Score a couple of touchdowns. Get up a touchdown or 2 lead, and the stadium pulse, goes dead quiet anyways. So that would just be one thing I wanted to get off my chest. That's a thing that blows my mind when I see people do that. Don't be so afraid. Hang on, Becker. Yeah, man, we still don't have an incompletion so far. And more in general, I guess just kind of double down on what I was saying earlier. I think too many of you just play scared. And I don't understand that. Just way too many checkdowns as like the central focal point of the offense. Drags and slants and that sort of thing. And it's not the recipe for winning. and it's not going to be, especially on a game like this. You guys probably heard me say it a ton during that Clemson season. By the way, if you're stumbling across this video and only this video, go back and look at, we put together a whole Clemson season on the Heisman tier online. Tried to go undefeated, tried to win national championship, tracked all the stats. We're hoping to win a Heisman. Another touchdown. I still don't think we have an incompletion yet. And see how all these drives, these first 3 drives, everything is 4 or 5 plays tops, because we're picking up big chunks. And that's what I try to say throughout that whole Clemson series. You may think like, oh, mesh concepts are pretty easy. Why don't I just have a drag running left to right and another drag running right to left? And the guy that looks more open, I'll take my 5-6 yards and I'll just do that all the way down the field. And it makes sense in your head, but I'm sure most of you have found when your drives are taking 10, 12, 13, 14 plays because you're only picking up 4 to 7 yards every play, bad things eventually happen. Eventually a user does bait you into a bad interception. Eventually your right guard, for whatever reason, just lets a guy through an insta-sack, and now you've lost 10 yards, and now you have a 3rd and 18. Oh, that was stupid. All right, don't do that in a game. Don't try to hurdle just for fun. We'll call that a fumble and bring it back, but still no incompletions. But yeah, you just can't. You can't do that consistently, especially the higher that you go up in terms of the players that you're going to match up to. You can't be banking on being perfect 12, 13, 14 times in a row without either you making a mistake or the game just sort of cheating you. And that's why, oh, there we go. There's that cover 4 quarters beater with that play. So we answered that fumble pretty quickly with a first play touchdown, 75-yard bomb. You just can't do that consistently. And that's why, if I could say anything about my philosophy on this game, on offense and defense, it's just like the inverse strategies of each other. On offense, I want big chunks. I want to score quick. Oh, there's our first incompletion on a... Got hit while we were throwing. I want to score quick, 5, 6, 7 yards tops, or 5, 6, 7 plays tops if we can do it. And on defense, it's kind of the exact opposite. Bend but don't break. Keep everything in front of you. Make our opponent run 10, 12, 13, 14 plays. And just trust eventually you will make a bad pass. I will bait you. You will throw an orange ball and the computer just picks you off. Your left tackle will let my end right through on a stunt, and I'll sack you on a big 3rd and 6, and now you got 4th and 15. The more plays you can make a person run, bad things are going to happen to them. And vice versa, when you're on offense, the less plays you can run, the less chance something bad can happen to you. So whether I'm home or away, every single thing on this game is about picking up chunks. 15, 20, 25, 30-yard chunks. It completely neutralizes stadium pulse. It keeps the ball out of your hands, which minimizes the likelihood of something bad happening. And then on defense, we do the exact opposite. We want to keep the ball in your hands for as long as possible, make you be perfect over and over and over again, and trust that eventually you won't. And there's a reason that I have, overall on this game, like a 97% win percentage. And on this specific account, a 100 win percentage through like 100 or so games now. And it's because, guess what? Most people do make the mistakes. They may think, hey, this is easy enough. I'll just repeat this over and over again. But eventually the mistakes happen. And so that would be my biggest, completely outside of like a money play or anything like that, just as far as a philosophical viewpoint of the game. Bigger chunks, quit being afraid, score quicker, make your opponent take longer, and a lot more wins are coming your way. And I think maybe if anybody sees this, anybody wants to comment, like I feel like a lot of you, it's like a fear of sacks for some reason. Like, you got to remember, this is not real football. Like, in real football, I think that's only our second incompletion of the video, and it's on another, got hit as we were throwing. Real football, you got a 3rd and 13. You're probably running either a halfback draw or like a tunnel screen because you're terrified of your quarterback throwing a pick six, making things worse, yada, yada, yada. This is video game football. 3rd and 13 is nothing. 2nd and 18 is nothing. Everybody goes on 4th down. You got 4 downs to get it. Things are wide open. It's naturally an offensive game. So stop taking the drag for 4 yards when if you had held the ball a second longer, you were going to have a 25-yard gain on your wheel route or your deep crosser or your stop route, your curl route. Don't be afraid to hold that ball, because if you do take the occasional sack, I get sacked sometimes. If I get sacked on a 1st and 10 and now it's 2nd and 14, brain doesn't even register that, like, oh man, we're in trouble now. I have 3 plays on this game to get 14 yards. Not a problem, not an issue. But I think just too many people, whether it's a fear of sacks, whether, I don't know what it is, they take the first route that flashes open to them. Like, my drag is open, or my angle route to my halfback out of the backfield is open. And sure, it probably was, and you made your 4 or 5 yard gain. But if you had held 1 second longer and had the right route combos on the field, had the right plays schemed up, your deep crosser was about to get open for 35 yards. Your wheel route was about to get open for 35 yards. Your comeback route was about to get open for 20 yards. So stop taking the first thing that flashes open because you're afraid of sacks. Sacks do not matter on these video game football games. They just don't. And unless it's a 4th down, maybe occasionally a 3rd down. If you got a 3rd and 7, you don't want to take a 10-yard sack and give yourself a 4th and 17. But short of a 3rd down, or especially a 4th down, sacks just don't matter. All that matters is having the ball, gaining yards, and putting the ball in the end zone. So, yeah, just relax a little bit. Don't be afraid of sacks. Scheme up good routes. Hang on to the ball and let your good routes develop. Take bigger chunks and start winning more games. And when you get sacked occasionally, pick it up your next 2 plays. When you have a 2nd and 16, don't fret. Don't be bothered by that. You have good plays to pick up 16 yards in 3 plays. Probably going to pick up 16 yards in 1 play. So that would, if I could get anyone out there to start viewing the game a little bit differently, that would be a big piece of advice. Interceptions hurt a lot. Be a lot more careful with the ball in terms of bad throws, interceptions, but do not fear sacks at all. Losing 5, 6, 7 yards on a play does not bother you the least as long as you have the ball and still have a good scheme in your pocket. And man, we have not faced really any resistance so far in these first, what has it been, 4 or 5 drives? I think we've had a couple of incompletions. I don't think we've even technically faced like what would have been a 3rd down yet. When you're scheming up good stuff, the game becomes a lot easier. Oh yeah, torched him. Good play, Surratt. Man, I love the scheme so much. Yeah, I used Indiana for pretty much exclusively like 4 months straight in the middle of the year here. Back when they were still a tier 3 and like 84 overall. And then just kind of with each like roster update, they'd get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. But I think this playbook ended up having some amazing gems in it. And I think when run properly, this scheme is so unstoppable. But I do hope you've seen like a lot of stuff translates to whatever team you're using. There's some specific stuff, some of those funkier plays that I showed you earlier with like the 2 tight ends on the field. And there's some stuff that's pretty specific to them, and you're not going to find it in a lot of playbooks. But for the most part, all these principles you can do with pretty much any team on this game as long as it's not, Air Force or Army or, what have you. But man, we are just absolutely tearing up this defense. Are we like 16 for 18 passing? Haven't faced a single 3rd down? Let's work in a run. Just seems like the right thing to do. Yeah. Even got some good running yards there. Not a big fan of running, as anyone who watched my Clemson season knows, but you got to throw it in occasionally. So yeah, I mean, I feel like we're 5-6 drives in, and it's just been bang, 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 touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. No real resistance at all. What do we got here? Himby. Oh, was he in? I don't know. I think so. Show it to me. Yeah, okay. I like that. Don't know why he had to one-hand Odell Beckham it, but I like it. Let's double check and confirm real quick. Okay, so I guess we've technically run 9 drives because we did have that Surratt fumble where we tried to hurdle. Yeah, they gave him his second touchdown, so that they did count that as a touchdown. So really, if you disregard that ridiculous Surratt hurdle where I fumbled, we've had 8 drives, 8 touchdowns, 29 for 31 passing, and the dispersion's been pretty good. I don't think Himby would really truly be our leading receiver that often. He gets a lot of catches and a lot of yards for me, but he's never in the top, 3 or 4 receivers at the end of a season when I use Indiana. So I think that's a little bit inflated, especially that one giant 75-yarder that he had. But that's the one thing I love about this offense and this sort of scheme that I'm teaching you, repeating the same philosophy over and over and over again. But look at the dispersion. I mean, Surratt's got 9 for 180. Cooper's got 8 for 135. Himby 6 for 205. Becker 4 for 87. Let's maybe run one more drive and try to get Charlie Becker over that 100-yard mark and get him a touchdown. He's the one guy kind of lagging behind the others. But yeah, even though it's the same sort of philosophy I showed you earlier, isolate your best guy, flood the other side of the field, and then just make the right read, the dispersion's been awesome. Everybody on the team gets to touch the ball a little bit. When you do it as a full season, obviously certain games, some guys stand out. Some guy has a big game this time, and this guy didn't catch a single pass, but 2 games later, the roles tend to balance themselves out in reverse, and now this guy had a huge game, and this guy didn't catch a single pass. So even though we're sort of running the same basic philosophy over and over, it's not like we're just feeding one glitchy player or one glitchy route. The dispersion ends up being a lot of fun, and it makes it a lot of fun to spread it around with a team. And whether you're finding this video with 5 weeks to go in the CFB 26 game cycle, or whether you stumble across this early in 27, I would like to know what you guys think, if this is stuff you run, if you get into practice mode and try it. Let me know what's working for you. I would say that would be a little bit of advice. If you're watching this and you're not that great at our third incompletion, you're not that great at this game, be realistic and know, hey, the new game comes out. This is our first third down of the game, by the way. Be like a 3rd and 6 from the 29. Let's see if we pick it up. But realistically, the new game comes out in 5 weeks, 6 weeks. You probably weren't going on a 1,500 game win streak in the final 6 weeks and making it into the top 100. So who gives a shit about your record, about your rank? If you're not quite where you want to be with this game, but some of the stuff in this video is making a lot of sense to you, just spend the next 5-6 weeks trying to buckle down with this. Hone it in, get locked in, feel really good about your scheme, and I promise you this stuff will translate over. And day 1 of CFB 27, you're going to think, oh my gosh, this is the best I have ever been at one of these games on launch. And that's the thing, like there's little nuances year to year. EJ Williams, let's get you another big chunk of yards before we wrap this up. Now let's see if we can end the video with a Charlie Becker touchdown. There's going to be little nuances year to year. You know, one year the comeback route's really awesome. The next year, out routes to your wide receiver are really awesome. Some years drags are great. Other years, zigs are great. That stuff does sort of change year to year, just however they've coded the game, what they want to be the money plays, what tends to just be coded a little stronger. Becker, nice. So that's true, and you got to kind of wait for each individual game each year to know what those nuanced things are going to be. But the general scheme, the concept, I promise you, that will translate year over year over year over year. I am in my mid-30s. I have been playing these since I was 15, 16 years old, like very competitively online. As I got a little bit older, got into tournaments and money games and that sort of thing. The exact same basic stuff has worked for 20 years. And largely it's because it is just football, you know? You want good receivers to win one-on-one. When they have one-on-one, you need to call routes that lend themselves to that. And then the rest of football and passing is about flooding zones and making good reads. So it's really truly not rocket science, but I know to a lot of people, you plug in a game like this and it's all moving really, really fast, and things that you think should work aren't quite working and you can't quite figure it out. And hopefully a video like this helps, slow it down for you a little bit. Once you kind of get, I finally get it. I get how this game works now. And then year over year, you apply the same principles, the same philosophy, and just make little subtle tweaks based on what the mechanics of that year's specific game are. Are drags great this year, or are slants great this year? Are comebacks great this year, or deep crossers great this year? And you just plug it into the new game, the new coding, and it works year over year over year. I don't make a lot of content. I don't make a lot of videos, but the one video I posted last year on this channel for CFB 26 was my offensive scheme for that game, and I had a 96-97% win percentage on last year's game too. This year, totally different team, totally different scheme as far as playbook, but what do you know, we ended up right back in the exact same spot, because that's just how these games work. That's how football works. And I really hope, even if it was just, one or two kids out there, I hope this video helps somebody and maybe opens up your confidence with these EA Sports football games a little bit. Feel free to comment. Feel free to let me know what you think. Feel free to send a friend request on the PlayStation if you want. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts. Good luck out there, everybody.